Right, anyway, we're in the final sort of 15 minutes or so now of the challenge. Well, I've just been wandering aimlessly whilst I reminisce about friggin' Thomas the Tank Engine of all things, trying to pluck things out of my memory and sort of failing, kind of. Good lord. I feel like there's more that I've forgotten, but sadly I could spend ages sat here desperately trying to remember it, and I don't think it'll happen. So you know what? We'll say that's as many as I remember, and to be honest, that's definitely more than 7 names, that. So we're definitely going to get 7 points at the end of this, provided I don't get myself killed at the very end. Ooh. I will take extra rounds, though, for when we inevitably have to slam down all our little trains, set them going, and kill any robots who come to try and interfere with our business and all that. Yeah. Very good. You know, me and Phil, I think, have talked about childhood TV shows before, haven't we? You know, more generally speaking. But, you know, whilst we're on that subject, I've just had another thought. I'm trying to think about, like, really obscure childhood TV shows from the 1990s that I can vaguely remember, which I think might be more sort of niche. And I'm wondering how many other people remember these. So, have I talked about one that I remember that was sort of like based on the Three Musketeers? The main character was Albert, I think he was called, and he had a spaghetti gun, something like that. Or am I describing a fever dream that I must have had when I was a kid? I don't know. I feel like I've seen that before. I vaguely remember it from when I was like 5 years old or something. There's that one. I'm sure there was another one called Robinson Crusoe, which I may have talked about before, I don't know. But it was guy trapped on an island, except unlike the actual Robinson Crusoe novel by Daniel Defoe, it was completely cartoonish, and it was about his, you know, comical day-to-day life, stranded on this island, making friends with the natives and things like that, and just getting up to silly shit. I remember that. That feels like another niche one. That does. I'm kind of curious how many people remember that. But I've just thought of another one, which I think might have actually been possibly an American one or a Canadian one that was probably, you know, broadcast briefly on British kids' TV. And, okay, I think it was called, and I don't know if it was spelt like this, like the actual spelling of the word, but was it called The Biscuits? Something like that. And I think what it was about is the characters were animals. I think they were like tiny little dogs. And when I say tiny, I mean like really damn small, like literally only about an inch tall or something. It was weird, but I just remember there being these characters, and they were like the heroes, the protags, and their antagonist, was he not like a human who was like a king or something? It basically had like a medieval fantasy setting, something like that. Does anybody know what the fuck I'm talking about, or was this a fever dream I had that I must have had when I was a kid? Oh, I've got to search for it. I've got to look for it online. Google is your friend, ladies and gentlemen. Or rather, I should say, Google is my friend. I should really check. Why am I getting frame rate dips right now? Is my computer desperately trying to uncover whether The Biscuits was actually something that I definitely do remember from my youth? Is it going crazy thinking about it? Who knows? Weirdly, oh my god, I'm getting like friggin' 99 frames facing in this direction. But when I turn around and look elsewhere, I was getting fucking none. Interesting. Always funny in games when you get that. You look in certain directions and the frame rate goes up, you look in others and it goes down. Oh my god, I'm over 100 FPS all of a sudden. What's going on? Bloody beautiful, that, isn't it? 105, 109, 111. Very good, very good. Fantastic stuff. Alright, I think we should start heading back to the jetty, in all honesty. Go away. Go away, pheasant man. Get out of here. Gotta go drink down my tea, it's getting a bit lukewarm. No, what other TV shows can I potentially remember from my childhood that were really, really obscure? There's another Jerry Anderson one from the late 90s, which I remember watching, I think, one episode of, and which, for a long time, I forgot it. Then when I eventually remembered it, again, it was one of those ones which I thought, was that real or was that just a fever dream? But then I searched it, and it turned out it was a Jerry Anderson, which I never realised, Lavender Castle. I ever talked about that one on the channel in Sir at any point? Because I've talked about Jerry Anderson TV shows before. You know, Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, Stingray, the big ones. But Lavender Castle, yeah, technically was a Jerry Anderson show. It was like a sort of space fantasy with these very weird characters who sort of like are a cross between Anthro and Alien. Very peculiar things, but with a distinctly fantasy vibe to them. Yeah, I remember actually seeing the very first episode of that when I was a kid, and obviously this was late 90s when kids shows were starting to use CGI. And I remember watching on the Jerry Anderson YouTube channel a primer video about it not too long ago. And of course, by today's standards, those late 90s kids' TV CGI visuals are very dated. You know, they do look a bit ropey by today's standards. But, you know, for the time they came out, they were good. They were rated well. And although episodes of it, thank you, Sixth Train was there all along, didn't even realise. But yeah, apparently episodes of Lavender Castle were only about 10 minutes long. They were not long. But according to the Jerry Anderson YouTube channel, it's a series that, despite being aimed at kids, is well worth a watch. Even for adult fans of Jerry Anderson productions. Because apparently the 10-minute episodes actually do cram a lot into their runtime. And they do have a very unique look to them, to put it that way. So maybe that's something I should be looking at. I should I should go on Amazon and I should buy a load of Jerry Anderson stuff on DVD or something. Because it'd be good to have in my house, actually. Because the thing is, actually, when I was living back up north, I did actually buy some Jerry Anderson stuff on DVD. I think I had Thunderbirds, the whole like box set of it. And I think I had Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons, the whole box set of that as well. The original 1960s TV shows. And I'm pretty sure I lent them to my dad. Because the thing is, my dad grew up in the 60s, and he remembers watching them, you know, back in the day. And he's a big fan of them, for when he watched them in his youth. So I probably lent them to him, but never took them back. Maybe I should leave those with him and just buy myself some new copies, and plus get some copies of other Jerry Anderson TV shows, ones that I've never watched. Maybe like Stingray, for example, because I have watched a few Stingrays, but not all of them. What about Joe 90? That'll be another weird one, probably worth watching. The Secret Service, maybe? Quite possibly. Right, let's go back to the Centre Island, ladies and gentlemen, whilst we still have time. Gulp tea. There we are. Right, let's head on over here. The cottage is nearby, but we still have technically 6 minutes and 15 seconds-ish remaining on the clock. Not that I think we're going to be finding any more trains here on the Centre Island, but I can always deposit the ones I have back in this inventory space at the moment. So, getting back to the topic of conversation at hand, kind of curious, you guys out there, what obscure childhood TV shows do you remember from your youth and all that? Because there's got to be some good ones, right? And I imagine, you know, because I have probably quite a few viewers from obviously places like Australia and America. I'm sure you could probably name some which probably were shown on UK television back in the day, on UK Kids TV, which I've just forgotten, but which I do probably, when reminded, will probably be like, oh yeah, I actually kind of do remember that one. Because the thing is, have I talked about the Redwall animated series before? I think I have. Because that technically was by a French-Canadian studio, Nelvana, and that was broadcast on children's TV in the UK, I remember it, sort of in the late 90s. Though it was never broadcast, I think, on any of the big channels. It was never broadcast on like BBC, children's TV, CBBC or CITV. I seem to recall it was on Channel 5's morning kids TV show. The what was it called back in the day? The children's TV show here on Channel 5 in the UK. Was it Milkshake? Was that what it was called? I don't know if it's still called that. Probably has a different name now. But I always remember it was broadcast on there on occasion. But the problem was, they friggin' showed the episodes super early in the morning. No joking, like something like 6:30 in the morning, when most kids probably aren't even awake at that point, I would imagine. So it's like, you never got to see them, or at least I never did. Because the problem is, back in the 90s, sort of early 90s when I was in primary school, the problem there is that I lived very close to my old primary school, so basically I was well within walking distance of it. It only took like 2 to 5 minutes to walk from my home to my old primary school. So as a result, I never had to sort of get up super early for school. I mean, obviously you have to get up early because you have to be there before 8:30 in the morning, so you sat down in your classroom ready for the registration period and before lessons then commence at 9 o'clock. So you'd have to get up probably somewhere around, like just after 7 o'clock in the morning or something. But yeah, like I say, it feels like Milkshake, they only ever broadcast Redwall animated episodes at something like freaking 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the morning, by the time you basically wake up, or I would wake up, you've missed them, in essence. And the thing is, I could have asked my parents as a little kid, could have asked them, can you get some blank VHS tapes and try recording them? But then again, that would depend on, obviously, my parents getting up early. And the problem is, I don't think my dad would have had time to do that. Because, back in the day, he had to get up early for work. Because he had to, where he worked it wasn't too far from where we were, but it was a fair drive. He had to basically go down the motorway to get there. So, of course, he would have to get up super early in the morning for work, so he wouldn't have been around to record it anyway. And of course my mum would have been too busy, probably, getting everything ready for us to go to school and all that. But it was just kind of ridiculous because I seem to recall even on weekends, this children's TV show on Channel 5, it would still broadcast super early in the morning, and you think, it's a weekend, can you not broadcast a bit later in the morning when most kids are actually going to be awake to see your shows, things like that? Oh yeah, I don't know. This is one of those, I don't know why I'm on this topic of conversation all of a sudden. This is going to mean absolutely nothing, I feel, to people outside of the UK, or people who are not of my generation, who probably were not around at that time to know what Milkshake was, assuming, that is, that it's not still around. I mean, maybe you will get it. I don't know. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But yeah, I'm going to stop rambling on about that. Oh my god, I've just thought of another kids show that I actually remember seeing one episode of. Does anyone remember a show called Fat Dog Mendoza? That might have been another one that was imported from America or somewhere. Seriously, do people know? Do people know Fat Dog Mendoza? All I remember about that one was there was a dog. He was very big. He's had sort of like a bit of a, hey kid. Not that kind of voice, sorry, but like a hey kid sort of voice. And was the deal with him that he was kind of like a bit like a very boss-like character who would often devise little schemes for getting rich or something, and whether they worked or not, I don't know. And he'd try and teach the kids around him what he was doing. I don't know. Again, this could be a fucking fever dream that maybe I had when I was a kid, but I feel like that might have been a show that I once just caught an episode of when I was a child, and for some freaking reason it's stuck in my memory, and I don't know why. Right, we've only got 12 more seconds before the hour is up, and then we're going to be done, ladies and gents. There we are. 3, 2, 1, boom. Right, and there you go. You should be able to hear my clock sounding the alarm. Thank you. Right, there we go. So, now that we've done that, that leaves only a couple more stages of the challenge. We have to name our engines to score the points. Then we have to set them all off at once and defend them from any robots that come to interfere. 8 names is really easy. Here's Thomas, here's Percy, here's James the Red Engine, Gordon, Henry, Toby, Annie and Clarabelle. There you go. Names done. That was really fucking easy. 8 points right off the bat. Right, let's transfer these across. I always forget you can actually double click items to just insta transfer them to your inventory. Now, here we go. Should we put them to moving mode like this? Be free, my little engines. Off ye go into the sunset. Oh yeah, they're all just standing around. Oh no, they're moving now. Well, that one's moving, but some of them appear to be stuck. Hey. Oh, why did I? Oh no, they're all moving now. Well, you can't interfere with them anyway. You're just going to follow them. You're not really going to do out, are you, old boy? Unless I do this. Take some dynamite. Come on, blow up your dogs. Hopefully that didn't destroy... Oh! 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Oh god, he's seen me. He has seen me. I didn't mean to get too close to him. He's mad. He mad. He doesn't like Thomas the Tank Engine, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, well, it's time for me to wrap the challenge up, ladies and gents. We've done it. We succeeded. Phil, if you're watching, Thomas the Tank Engine Challenge, resounding success. We did really well at it. Or I did really well, I should say. I don't know why I said we. You're not here with me, ladies and gents. Okay, so, social media links, propaganda channel link, etc, etc, all as usual, down in the video description for anyone interested. If you enjoyed, a like is, of course, always appreciated. Hopefully you can't get me over here. Can he go through the water? No, he can't. Alright, well, other than that, folks, I think it's time for me to sign off and escape from the world of Sir before old El Landowner gets over here and punishes me for killing his dogs. Goodbye, everybody.
Right, if we do this, maybe just bring them to size a little bit. Climb here. Okay. Jump. Hello.
Try to get out the window.
This thing's rocking, I'm standing on.
Right, jump out.
Yes! Holy shit! I knew there'd be something up here. What's this ball?
Scoop.
Oh. Might as well leave it on.
Yeah, party time.
Party time up in here, bitches.
Popcorn.
Nice. Traffic cone, you can wear it on your head.
God, I haven't had popcorn in ages.
More of these things.
Reminds me, I need to go to the cinema again at some point.
Yeah.
I really do, because I haven't had popcorn in so long.
Yeah. I suppose there's something that happens if maybe you turn all these disco lights on.
Oh.
Could try it. Oh.